Director, the first time you saw Donald Trump's name was in the Epstein files. Did you close the files or keep reading?
I have reviewed not the entirety of the files, so
You haven't reviewed all of the Epstein files?
Personally, no.
You're the director of the FBI. This is the largest sex trafficking case the FBI has ever been a part of. Buck stops at the top.
America, for years, Eric Swalwell sat in front of the cameras telling you that nobody is above the law, that transparency is sacred, that the American people have the right to know. This week, that same man sent a cease and desist letter to the FBI director demanding they hide his files, not release them. Hide them. But here's the update that everybody missed. The FBI read that letter and they threw it in the trash and spent the entire weekend preparing those files anyway. They're coming, Schwally.
Congressman Eric Swalwell has sent a cease and desist letter to FBI Director Kash Patel. The Washington Post reported this past weekend that Patel was urging the Bureau to release files related to Swalwell and his relationship with suspected Chinese spy Christine Fang.
Now, Swalwell's lawyer said in part in the letter, quote, "The congressman has never been accused of wrongdoing in that matter, and your attempt to release the file is a transparent attempt to smear him and undermine his campaign for governor of California."
What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Before we get into Swalwell's panic, you need to understand who Fang actually was, because every news headline calling this a suspected spy connection is deliberately vague here. The Axios reporter, who spent an entire year on this case, is far more specific about the strategy.
She operated, especially initially, on such a hyper-local level. She was interacting with, people who were town council members and mayors and their staffers and, local political offices. People like that aren't trained to recognize an intelligence operative. And most people have no idea that they could even be a valuable target.
She was targeting people not yet powerful, aka Eric Swalwell. That's an intelligence tradecraft situation, not a chance encounter. She wasn't targeting senators. She was planting herself at a city council level specifically because the Chinese Ministry of State Security plays the long game. Find the rising stars early, build the relationship before they know what they have. Now watch what that looked like with Swalwell.
The politician whom she was most successful in pursuing that strategy with was Representative Eric Swalwell. She knew him from before he was a representative, from when he was a Dublin City Council member. And they stayed in touch and, for several years. She developed close ties to his office all the way up until more or less the eve of him being appointed to the House Intelligence Committee.
4 years building towards the moment he got access to America's most sensitive secrets about China. She tracked him from Dublin, California City Council seat, through his first congressional campaign, funded his 2014 re-election, placed an intern inside his Washington, D.C. office, and the relationship ended when he gained a seat on the committee that handles America's most classified intelligence information about China. That was the objective, and whatever happened between those years is sitting inside the files Eric Swalwell just tried to legally block. I'm going to let Swalwell do most of the work in this section because you need to see his standard for transparency when the subject is somebody else. Watch this carefully.
Is it at least 500 times?
No.
Is it at least 100 times?
No.
Then what's the number?
I don't know the number, but it's not that.
Do you think it might be your job to know the number?
The standard he set, you either know every detail or you're complicit in hiding it. No grace, no nuance. You either release it all and account for every single detail, or maybe, just maybe, you're hiding something. That's the Swalwell transparency rule, you guys. Now, here's the Swalwell transparency rule when it applies to him.
This case is closed. The Bureau said over 10 years ago, all we did was help. But this effort to weaponize the FBI against the president's political enemy at a time that we are at war shows a distraction. It shows an obsession with going after the president's political opponents. And it also shows anyone, anywhere who would ever be asked to help their government, why would you do this if it would be perverted in a way to make you look like you did something wrong?
All we did was help. He never says what's in the files, just that the case is closed, you guys. He didn't say those files show nothing. He said it's political. He compared Kash Patel, the same director that he was just grilling for transparency, to J. Edgar Hoover.
Decades-old files being held at DOJ, you say? Huh. Something about this seems very familiar.
This is exactly what Swalwell celebrated 2 months ago when the subject was somebody else. Same FBI, same Patel, same files, when the name inside belongs to somebody else. Of course. That's the hypocrisy here in plain sight. But here's what nobody's actually covering: what the FBI is doing with this case right now. Buried in paragraph 9 of every report that covered this story is the most significant detail of it all. The FBI is actively discussing offering Fang a U.S. visa to return from China to testify about her relationship with Mr. Swalwell. They're also considering sending agents to China to interview her directly. You guys, the United States government is considering granting a visa to a woman who fled this country in 2015 when the FBI started closing in on her network, a suspected Chinese spy. You don't do that for a closed case. You don't spend that type of political capital to import a suspected CCP spy for a press conference. You do it when what she knows is significant enough to justify that risk. The FBI thinks what she knows is so important that they're willing to bring her back on American soil to testify. And Eric Swalwell tried to stop it with a lawyer's letter. What is in those files?
Well, there's almost certainly, just generally speaking about the case, far more than our reporting uncovered. It was a huge national level sweeping and counterintelligence investigation. There's certainly information that we don't know. I can't tell you what that information is because I don't know it.
You spent a year on this, Bethany. A year later, what, in your opinion, was the one thing that stood out to you?
China's long-term strategy that has implications for potentially any city, for any local official. The fact that they would spend, so much time, so many resources, with an operative on the ground, attending political events with, staffers of, county officials. That was really surprising to me. And I think that indicates that China's intelligence activities in the United States are of a scope and a level that many people have not previously grasped.
The woman who broke this story is telling you that she didn't know what was in those files. That's not a closed case. That is just the tip. Just the tip of the iceberg, you guys, is telling you point blank that there is far more than what she found. A huge national level sweeping counterintelligence investigation. More than she uncovered, more than Congress pursued before quietly closing the Ethics Committee probe in 2023 with zero action taken. The FBI never stopped looking.
If he has nothing to hide, why is he acting like this? This is not the behavior of an innocent individual. And not to mention the fact that he's actually a terrible public servant. He's one of the most absentee politicians from the state of California. Why should we trust him to be governor?
And here's a second front to this story that's been sitting quietly in the background. A separate DOJ probe opened in November 2025, completely unrelated to Fang, into Swalwell's mortgage fraud allegations. He allegedly listed his Washington, D.C. home as a primary residence while claiming California residency for political purposes. 5 neighbors on his supposed California street said that they never actually seen him. His campaign listed an office building as his address. 2 separate DOJ investigations. 1 man running for governor. And here's why this stops being a congressional ethics story and becomes an emergency for every single California voter.
He may actually be even more progressive than Gavin Newsom. If you listen to him campaigning, he wants to raise taxes on businesses that hire people who receive federal assistance like food stamps or Medicaid, which is over 40% of the California population. So you would be raising taxes on probably 40% of businesses.
And his first economic policy punishes employers who hire people on government assistance. More progressive than Gavin Newsom in California, where businesses are already leaving, where working families are already drowning. His signature economic policy taxes businesses that employ anybody receiving food stamps or Medicaid. That's punishing every small business owner who gave somebody a job when they needed it the most.
Trump and Patel are trying to interfere in the California election. That's why they're targeting me. I'm the only name in the race that they know, the only one that they're threatened by.
He's running on this story that tells you he believes his base won't ask what Fang was building towards here. He's using a Chinese intelligence operation that targeted him for 4 years as a campaign applause line.
You wrote a book called Government Gangsters. You identified 20 individuals in that book. You put me on that list, at the top of the list. Thank you. My children find it flattering. 20 of those individuals have been investigated or have had adverse actions. Director, considering that you have identified these people as, quote, government gangsters, will you recuse yourself from making any investigation decisions about these individuals?
Anyone that has been terminated at the FBI has been done
No, the question
they failed to meet the muster in their constitutional obligation.
I will work on the audio-visual capabilities.
I'm going to borrow your terminology and call bullshit on your
time.
entire career in Congress.
Reclaiming my time,
it has been
Director.
a disgrace to the American
Director, I'm
people.
reclaiming my time.
You can reclaim your time all you want.
Mr. Chairman, you're going to allow a witness to speak this way? Mr. Chairman, would you give...
20 people identified in that book have since been investigated. America, California's primary is June 2nd. Early voting starts early May. Right now, more California voters want Eric Fang Swalwell as governor than any other candidate in the race. Here's what nobody wants to say on camera. The FBI doesn't offer visas to suspected foreign intelligence operatives for political theater. That step requires internal justification and risk management at the highest levels. You don't bring a suspected CCP operative back into the United States on American soil unless you know that she's worth the exposure. They want her back. Swalwell's lawyer's letter didn't stop anything. The files are coming before California votes. He set the standard himself in that hearing room, demanding Patel account for every detail, every name, every instance, transparency or complicity. Those were his words. That standard is now pointed directly at him. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.